Gotcha. Okay, there we go.
Sorry, Lisa, I guess this is just additional, clarification, or we're kind of in that situation. And I think I talked to you about it a couple of weeks ago. My client is looking at a home that we're not sure is going to appraise. And so we asked the seller if they would be willing to pay for the appraisal up front so that they wouldn't lose that money. And they said, no, they don't want to do that, but we're still we're verbally going back and forth right now. We let the counter kind of fall off. We didn't counter back. So we've just been verbally talking, but I guess it just still seems kind of high, and we're not sure what to do in the case that it doesn't appraise.
Right. Well, in this situation, if you're outside of contract dates, you don't have a contract at all. So at this point, you would need to resurrect things as you know, or whatever. Right. One of the things that most buyers need to understand is that quite often that's a cost of doing business, is an appraisal, an inspection, things like that. And they need to understand that money's at risk during that up until closing. If you think, I'm not confident that I would write a contract on something that you really feel is not going to appraise, even if the seller pays for the appraisal, because is the buyer paying a fair price? Are you doing your job for that buyer? So
Lisa, I think that's happening a lot because of the competition on the lower priced homes.
I agree with you.
You can sell them that's 25,000 over your list price.
Yeah.
And I know for us, we were hoping that the seller would come back. If the appraisal came in lower, we're hoping the seller would come back and adjust the price.
Right, but you don't have any guarantee that's going to happen. I agree with your strategy, Robin. I think it's sound. But at that point, the buyer's out of inspections, they're out of time. And the seller's not obligated to come down. The other thing is, and we talked about this last week, is just because one appraisal comes back low, if it goes back under escrow a second time, that appraisal may come in fine. So the seller may be less inclined to cancel or reduce their price, especially if they're in a price point where there's tons of offers.
Working on it.
Thank you. There you sound like you're being arrested or something. So if the sellers are going to be less inclined to reduce their price if the market is as brisk as it is right now.
Got it. Thank you.
Yeah, no problem. Any other questions or concerns about this? I think that our market is different right now, especially under 250. There's no doubt about it. I know Jody, we spoke yesterday. She got, I think, 19 offers on one property in less than 5 hours. It makes it really difficult when you're representing buyers in this market in that price point. So I understand exactly why Robin would go above, and I probably would in the same situation, just trying to get them, under contract. But
Lisa, what was that form again on the appraiser?
Let me show you again. I'll go back to my share screen.
Sorry, I kind of came in later.
That's okay.
I apologize.
Let's see. It's called the Appraisal Contingency Notice and Residential Real Estate to the Residential Resale Real Estate Purchase Contract.
I can read. That's a good thing.
Yeah, really quickly. Yeah, I can't speak. I'm glad you can read.
Thanks, Lisa.
You're welcome. And again, make sure if you do use this form that you write in the date of the original contract, the buyer seller, all the normal stuff. The escrow company is really critical to this because that's who you're going to deliver the form to. And then make sure, of course, that any buyer on the contract signs, that both or more sign in. And I fully expect at some point this will be updated to include other options if the market stays the way it is right now.
Hello.
Can you hear us?
Hi, just saying hi. Sorry to jump on late. I've been on the phone.
Okay, it's all good.
You're not the only late one, Dan.
Hi, Dan.
Does anybody have any other questions about this form or the best way to use it? No? Okay. Well, I guess we'll move on to the next form then. Let's get to that one. And that is the status report form. Can you all see that?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. I'm like, is anybody still here? So this one is one we've been having a lot of trouble with. First of all, people have been using an outdated form, and that will not be a form that we accept anymore. This one doesn't need to be signed by me unless it's a price change, a cancellation, or an extension. Everything else, you can sign it as my designated signator, or signature, whatever, however you would say that.
What are they again, Lisa? What are the three that you have to sign?
I have to sign if it's cancellation, extension, or price changes. And those are also things that your seller would have to sign before I will sign down here. So if it's a price change, any change to basically the terms of the contract. So if it's a price change, an extension, or a cancellation, the seller would need to sign, and then I would need to sign as well as you signing. But we can go through the form from the beginning and kind of go through some different scenarios. The first thing is the MLS number is obviously pretty clear, but you would be surprised at how many people put their own MLS number, their agent ID in that spot. That is the MLS number that is in the computer system, as well as the property address. The company ID is your, the MLS ID for the company, which for Kolb is 4783 and for JV is 478306. Each of our other 10 offices has a unique code. So make sure you use the correct one for that. And of course your agent ID, for instance, mine's 5105. You would put your own code in there and your agent name. I think you guys can all figure that part out pretty well. If it's active or active contingent, pending, or any of these in the top section, I don't need to sign for those. But you do need to fill it out and keep it in your file. You don't need to submit it anywhere as far as the MLS system, because this is something you do internally. You'll fill this form out, you'll go in and you'll change the status. I do want to go through some, this cancellation provision status is the one that is the most confusing to people. That is where the old CAPA status, I don't know, for those of you that were in business over 10 years ago, we had what was called Can Accept Purchase Agreement, and that was for backup offers. The cancellation provision is the one that is the same as that. So you would check cancellation provision if you had something with a buyer contingency agreement where you could bump them, and then it would go under the active cancellation provision in the computer system in the MLS, and then they could still see it at that point. The pending, of course, would be after your inspection periods and if you're not allowing any other backup offers or showing appointments. And then the price changes, again, these are where, and it even says seller signature required on these. Back on the market, temporarily off market, canceled or extended, new price or range price. Those are all things that the seller would need to sign, but I only need to sign if it's canceled, extended, or a price change has happened. Once it's closed, one of the things we were seeing a lot of is people closing a property out and putting their information in here instead of the buyer's agent's information in here. The company that represents the buyer is the one that goes under the closed rented status here. So you need to put their name and their company ID, the sold date, whether or not it was a short sale, what the sold price was, and then make sure that you put in any paid repairs and any concessions. MLS is tracking that information now. And then also what type of financing, or was it cash? If you edit the listing information, I don't need to see this form, and you don't really need to send it anywhere unless you're doing something to correct something after the fact, in which case it would be submitted to MLS after I sign it. And again, this is the signature block. You would always need to sign it. I only need to sign it if it's those 3 items we talked about, and the seller would need to sign it if it's anything that has to do with a seller change, which would be any of these items in the middle here. Does anybody have any questions about that form?
So does this form have to be filled out for every transaction or the things that are outside of?
It does not. It used to be required for everything. I keep it in my file just as a data log of when we've done things. For instance, if you need to know what day you went penny or what day it did different things, you have that in your file. But it's only required for these items here and when you close it. Every closed file would need to have this in there.
Really?
Mm-hmm. It's supposed to be, I'm not going to hold your check for that, but it should be in there just so.
Thank God, I wouldn't have gotten paid the whole year.
Well, I know, because I'm not holding your check for that. But we will hold your check if you don't put the closed MLS in, and you need this data in order to do that.
That's what I was going to say, because we're still doing that. We're providing all of that to
Correct.
MLS.
Yeah.
Interesting.
So I just keep this, you don't have to submit this form to us, but make sure you keep it in your folder.
And when you said that this is new and a lot of us are using old, so those of us that are still using zip forms, is that one old?
No, this is from, I pulled it up. This is from Zip Form, so it is current.
It's
As
current.
long as you
Okay.
update your files in there.
Okay.
So, we've got a lot of revised forms this year, and I know it's really difficult to keep track of everything. I think it is anyway. Do your very best. There are going to be times when you use an outdated form. As brokers, we're going to gently remind you, maybe not so gently, to correct it and use the right form. Dan, I know in the PC program is helping you all use the right forms. So I think that's the biggest thing is just stay current. Make sure you read any updates I send out so that you can use the correct or the most recent form, because it may change all the time. Any questions on that? No? Okay. Well, you guys are not a real fun group today. Sorry.
No, it's these classes must be working. No one's got questions.
Well, or they don't care. That's the next one.
Until it happens, and then we'll call you.
I know. That's exactly what's going to happen. This afternoon, I'm going to get a bunch of texts saying, "What exactly did you mean by that?"
Yeah.
So please don't hesitate to ask. This is a safe environment. I may make fun of you. No, I'm just kidding. It'll be good if you want to ask a question or call me later. Either way. But so nobody has any other questions or concerns about either of the forms we talked about? We've got about 30 more minutes. We can either continue on and have an open forum, or we can hang up.
More about Larry's vacation.
I have a question on command. I know it's going to be active on 1 August, correct?
Correct. Mm-hmm.
So how long is .loop? How long are we going to have to transfer our files from one to another?
You will have until October 31st. So you'll have 3 full months. Everybody, for the 3 months, it's going to be super awkward for us as brokers because we're going to be reviewing files on both platforms. But as of October 31st, that's the drop dead date for .loop. Unless you choose to continue on with your own private membership, you can still elect to use .loop for your forms, but everything would need to be uploaded into Command for compliance.
So in other words, learn to use Command.
It's free and it's accessible and it works. So yeah. The hardest part for me is that the compliance part keeps having some issues. And so they'll fix something and then it'll fall off. And then they'll fix something and it'll fall off. And it's already a little more cumbersome for the brokers. It's going to take us about 4 times as long to review each file. It's a little scary for us because we don't have the personnel necessarily to for that kind of time. And that's why we've been waiting as long as we can to implement it, but we can't wait any longer. It's not fair to you all when we have such a great system up to that point. And that's due to Arizona's rules. It's not a Command flaw. It's an Arizona flaw. We have much more stringent and complicated rules than 99% of the country. And it stands you in good stead as far as technique and learning different things about compliance, but it's just cumbersome on the broker side. Does that answer your question?
And my other question would be sorry guys, I just
Okay.
threw a blank. It was not about command, but it was about, it'll come to, sorry.
It's okay. That's what we're here for.
So I just had a nice little surprise.
that?
We're in the process of a refi here at the house. And 3 weeks ago, I was notified by the mortgage system that from the mortgage company that they had ordered an appraisal. And I kept asking my daughter, have you heard from an appraiser yet? Have you heard from an appraiser yet for them to schedule to come by? And that opened a discussion with someone about, well, maybe the appraiser just pulled up and verified the house was there and then went to the online records and we'll do an appraisal report from that. And I'm like, oh, God, no, we did $30,000 worth of renovation inside this house
Right.
that they can't see from sitting out in their car. So I called the lender and I'm like, what's going on? It's been 3 weeks. I got the notice that an appraisal has been ordered. I haven't heard from anybody about scheduling, blah, blah, blah. And he goes, hang on a sec. Comes back and goes, oh, they cleared it without having to do an appraisal. They're good with the numbers that you claimed on the application. So
Oh my
and
God.
our key thing is we're trying to drop MI.
Yeah,
So
I did that last year, Larry, and it was the same way. I was shocked.
yeah.
It appraised my place appraised for 15,000 more than I expected.
Yeah,
They asked me, they said, what would you list it for? And I told them, and then it was more. And I was like, holy crap, that's
yeah,
awesome.
they just completely waived an appraisal. They just said, the numbers you said it was worth, well, we can work with that.
Because your equity was so high, probably that, yeah.
Well, we're just at the 20% margin, barely.
Yeah.
Because I'm like, we
Fine,
gotta
yeah.
hit it. We gotta hit this number.
Yeah.
I've got all my CMA and all my information pulled and appraisal from a year or 2 years ago and all this other stuff to give to an appraiser to say, here's the current information. A house down the street, a similar house just closed at 290, that kind of thing. And he gets on, oh no, they waived that. Don't have to worry about it. You save $550.
And wouldn't it be really nice if they let you know?
Yeah.
That communication part of the whole puzzle. Yeah.
So that was completely unexpected, and
That's
they
good
just said,
news.
yeah, well, they didn't. I mean, it's not even they had an appraisal of any kind. They just looked at it and said, yeah, I mean, the house is probably worth that.
Well, they knew who you were, Larry, and they knew that you had your work done. So had you not had the work done, they'd have made you do your appraisals.
Yeah, but they didn't know the work was done. That's just it.
You could have it gutted inside, technically. I mean,
And they
Yeah.
wouldn't know.
Yeah,
put pictures of someone else's house up there, they'd never know.
pretty crazy.
Well,
So
that's
anyway,
great.
that was a piece of getting this whole appraisal stuff that we've been talking about. It was like, whoa, bright spot. Oh, how often is this going to start happening?
I know, that's actually really great news because, yeah, it'd be great if that happened more often.
And I have a really interesting morning. I had my first referral for someone who may want to retire in France as an expat. And so this morning I Skyped with a guy that lives in a town of about 5,000 people outside of Lyon, where I was for family reunion in January. And he did a virtual tour of his house. He's really good on Zoom. Showed the house, showed the city, showed everything about it, talked about all the trains, told me the prices and all that. And honestly, I went for fun. I didn't know that I ever would really have a referral potentially for an agent over there. So
That's
that was kind of
fantastic.
cool. Never know. And I might go with them. I just
That could be interesting. Yeah, that sounds like fun. I think that's the benefit of referrals when you don't even know they're coming. Just networking, don't you think? I've gotten referrals. Well, I just got one not too long ago from my son's ex-fiance. She called me out of the blue. She got transferred back to Tucson, and she said, I don't know if you want to work with me or not, but here I am. I want to buy a house. So I said, yeah. But I mean, he's married, he's got kids. I mean, this was a long time ago. And you just never know where those relationships are going to come up. It's amazing.
Larry, did you do your refi with IntroLend by any chance? Were you familiar with it yet?
No, it wasn't ready to go. We started this process quite a while ago. So it's, we're going through Keller Mortgage.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Well, the other thing, IntroLend should be rolling out next week, John, or pretty quick.
Yeah, we have a meeting about it.
July 9th.
Jan and Frank are part of that too. Early next week, and then by the middle of the week, more details. So
Yeah. So it should be rolling out. It's What I like about it is that we've got a great app that you can do everything from your phone. You can pick your own lender. We've got quite a few great lenders on there now, and there'll be more to come. So they
Does
can
everybody know what it is? I think we keep talking about it, but I think it's been very ethereal.
Well, I think because it hasn't been rolled out yet, so I don't think that.
Yeah, I mean, we talk about it. There's a sign on the door.
Yeah.
Like Amber shaking her head. Do you know what it is, Amber?
Okay.
We're going to have our own mortgage company, and it's an app, and you get to choose lenders, and it's very cool. So it isn't just, oh, use Keller Williams Mortgage. It's use this app for your buyers. Your buyer submits their paperwork one time, and then they can use that person who reviewed it, who's Becky Bassett, that has been at our meetings, or they can choose from these other lenders that are participating. So your buyer only has to submit paperwork once, and they can choose amongst different lenders. Right, Jen? You just zoomed it.
Yeah,
If I said that correctly?
Yeah, I jumped back on for that specific purpose, Donna. Our lender, and I really don't want to get into the name of our lender, has provided extremely fantastic personal service, and she prides herself on the type of personal hand-holding that she's provided with all of our clients for the past 10 years. She's really considering that she's not going to be able to provide that with IntroLend, and so not jumping on the bandwagon at this moment because of that. Her team takes a client from horrible credit through to the point of being able to get them a loan and get them up and running and do it in a way that they're not intimidated by the process. And she feels that IntroLend is not any better than click to apply on the internet. So she was
Oh, wow. That's
very
interesting.
sad that we're going to be going to that format and not using her.
Well, I think
So-
have her reach out to David, and maybe you can have a private conversation with David, because I think that's not at all the intent of that
Right,
platform.
right.
You know, and Lisa, it is the younger generation, which I'm no longer part of,
Me neither.
loves that click to be their stuff. They love that. Not everyone loves that.
I'm old and I love it.
Yeah, well, you know, not everyone is tech savvy.
Yeah.
In our market, we do, ton of seniors that are coming here for retirement.
Mhm.
They don't want to be tied to their iPhone and their computer. They want to be done with that stuff. So,
And they could probably, they could meet her one-on-one. They could certainly come into the office. There's other ways that they could do it. They're not tied to the app. They don't have to. That's a convenience factor. That's not
Right.
the only way to do the business.
right, well, that's a good
Maybe
point.
we need to give other options. And I think that's a really good point you brought up, because I don't think we've talked about the other ways that people can utilize the company
Right.
without the app.
Well, and if there's a way that we could make it friendly in the same format that she's accustomed to doing business with our clients,
Mhm.
and not go through that app process, perhaps that's the way it'll work for her.
Mhm.
So, we're anxious to see how it gets rolled out and
Yeah.
see if we can make that framework be a starting point for us and invite our preferred lenders in on a basis that works for them.
Exactly. Well, this is probably not the right forum to talk about this.
Right.
And,
Yeah, I just wondered if people
but
had,
yeah, I think it's a great,
to me, it's like an acronym that we throw out there. And if you don't know what the acronym is, it doesn't mean anything. So
exactly. But
keep
Jan, I'll
talking about
definitely
it.
follow up on that for you
Okay.
and let you know what I can find out, okay?
All right. I did ask you also, I missed your first part, I'm sorry. Long story. What other forms did you cover today that I missed?
I covered the status report form and the appraisal contingency addendum.
Okay, I thought for some reason you had another one that I was missing.
Oh, the
So
purchase contract, I think you know that one.
I yeah.
Yeah, a little bit.
Thank you. Sorry to
Yeah.
interrupt everybody.
Oh, no worries at all. Do you guys want me to put these forms in here, or you can find them easily on in Dotloop or on whatever form.
I think I like the appraisal one. I've never seen that before.
I've never used it either, Jan.
Is that a new one, Lisa?
I've always used that form. It's from 2017, and I've used it religiously. And
Yeah.
I realized after talking to a couple other agents, even other brokers, like, I didn't even know we had that form. So let me go back and share my screen again.
Here, come here. All right.
Yeah, my understanding of that form is that
Here we
used
go.
on cash deals only.
I'm sorry, what did you say again?
There. Here.
So the only time I've really seen the appraisal contingency form was on cash deals.
Oh, that's interesting.
Really?
How would it even apply to a cash deal?
Because it has no, yeah, it has no bearing on a cash deal.
I'm not saying that every brokerage does things right. These are just things that I see.
But you, I mean, it really doesn't apply at all. There's nothing, whoops, I grabbed the wrong one, sorry.
Actually thought Dan might have been making a joke there.
I
I
know,
know.
right?
Some of the stuff I deal with is very comical.
Yeah. Hold on a second. Okay. It's not like an, there we go. Okay. So it's the appraisal contingency notice form. That's the one you're looking for. And it only has to do with a property that has a loan on it, because it refers to section 2L of the contract, which has to do with an appraisal contingency. A cash deal would not have anything filled out in section 2 at all. That's the other thing too that I wasn't clear when we were talking about the contract. If you have a cash deal, you don't fill anything out in section 2. Not the appraisal, nothing at all. If you have a cash deal that is contingent upon an appraisal, there is an additional clause addendum would cover that. So the name of the form, this is it, Jan. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, I will print those and read them and then let you know if I have any questions.
Okay,
Cool. Thank you for that.
sure. What else? We've got about 15 minutes. Is there anything else you guys want to talk about or have any, it doesn't have to be anything broker related. It doesn't have to be this particular topic.
Investments. Have you done an investment before?
Have I?
And what are your thoughts on that as far as being an agent and doing that piece?
Well, let me do the disclaimer. I am a real estate broker. I'm not an investment advisor or your tax advisor or an accountant. It depends. How's that for being broad? It depends on what you're looking for, what your situation is, what type of investment it is. I've been very successful with flips. I usually live in them while I work on them and flip them, which isn't for everybody. But for me, I've made quite a bit more money on the ones I've lived in and flipped than the ones I've just flipped without that. I've done rental properties. I've done multifamily, industrial, and land, a ton of land investments over the years. So it just really depends on, find something you're passionate about, first of all, and figure out what you're looking for. Is it long-term? Is it a quick gain? Do you want to be a landlord? Those are all things to consider when you talk about an investment.
And I guess that's my question, Lisa, really, is for a broker, is as far as being a landlord, what is, I know I'm not a property manager because that's something separate, right?
Right.
So in the event, like, would my husband be the landlord because
No.
I'm still an agent?
No, you can manage your own properties as long as they're owned by you, not an LLC or something. If they're owned by you yourself, you can manage your own properties without any kind of, without it having to go through the brokerage. The one thing is you can't use any AAR forms, you can't use any brokerage forms, you can't represent yourself to your client or to the tenant as being represented by Keller Williams. You have to disclose that you're a licensed agent, but it's outside of the scope of Keller Williams. You wouldn't turn your leases in for review. We wouldn't be in any way liable or scrutinizing anything that you do with that tenant.
Thank you, because that's my question really, is
Mhm.
where's that line? You know what I mean? As far as owning my property and renting it out to somebody that,
Mm-hmm.
a tenant.
I've done it
So-
both ways. I've managed my own, and I've also hired other people to manage my properties just for that arm's length. It's super hard to evict somebody that you've been personally, and they know you own the property, and that it's an investment for you. It's not your primary residence. So you still have to abide by all fair housing laws and all landlord tenant laws. So sometimes having that little bit of a buffer between you and the tenant is a good thing. let somebody else do the dirty work, so to speak, for 10% or whatever you negotiate for your rental fee.
Yeah,
Awesome.
you're a real estate agent. Focus on real estate, and then hire a management company to manage your property. So
Couldn't have said it better.
You don't want the 3 a.m. phone call.
Right, right. Or the repairs. I mean, that's what they're for. That's what they earn that money. They have a whole portfolio of that. They, quite a few doors that they manage. And honestly, it sucked the life out of me to have one rental house in Midtown. It was a constant, everything, there was always something was breaking, or they were late paying, or, somebody was calling and complaining about the noise. I mean, it didn't matter. There's always something. But that's up to you. You may have more tolerance than I do.
Oh no, I would hire property management.
Yeah. And other types of investments for me are easier. Land doesn't do anything. It sits there and makes money usually. Industrial, same thing. Your tenant or your clients are usually a little more sophisticated. It's not a personal, they're not living in the property necessarily, so they don't have that personal anxiety or feelings about the property. It's strictly numbers usually. So industrial stuff for me has been a really good investment. It's just, I've always had to do that with somebody else because I had never had quite, the cash flow to do that on my own. Figure out what you like, what you're passionate about, and do that. If it's just money, look for the biggest return.
And that's what we are right now, is just basically the biggest return. And I just went on auction. I'm just trying to figure out where you can find these properties, at such a low price where you can.
Yeah, well, I know a good agent if you need a referral.
What's that?
And yeah, I know a good agent if you need a referral.
Thanks. So do I.
No, but you can, a lot of it is off market. It's talking to other agents, finding out what they've got coming up. Obviously the coming soon laws are different now than they were prior to 60 days ago, but within our company, we can still talk freely about anything coming soon. That's not restricted. You can also, farm an area, make some phone calls, go knock on some doors. That's what I did for some I bought. They weren't on the market. I drove around some neighborhoods I wanted to invest in, and I contacted the owners directly.
Oh, that's a good idea.
Yeah. If you need help, let me know.
Thanks for your input. I value it.
I think COVID's changed that a little bit. I'm not sure how people would feel about door knockers at this point in time.
No,
I have people that are hesitating to list because they do not want strangers in their homes at this point. So I think our world is different than it was.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not a huge door knocker anyway because I'm shy and I don't like to door knock. But what if you went with a KW mask on and you stood back from the doorway and you just asked them if they're interested in selling? I mean, there's ways to do it even with COVID. You don't necessarily even have to go in the home at that point. They could even video it for you or something. I mean, there's always a way.
Yeah, my neighbor, my client rather, that bought the house way up in the Tucson West foothills.
Yeah.
He's surrounded by empty lots, and his backyard looks right square into one of them. He goes, "Man, I don't know that I'd want somebody to build right there. I'd lose the privacy in my backyard." I said, "Well, we can find out who owns it, and all of the information in the records got everything, of course, with tax records, an address, where the owner is, just no phone number."
Mm-hmm.
So that AM cards thing that we have, or that you can have, I have it. So I went on there and I just said, "Hey, I'm a real estate agent. My client just bought the property. It's at this address. Your lot is adjacent to it. Would you have any interest in selling? If so, contact me." Both lots called.
So if you look up fastpeoplesearch.com, you can generally find a phone number.
Yeah, sometimes you can. But there's always a way. You can always do the old-fashioned way and mail it,
Yeah.
I've been pretty successful with that, especially with land. A lot of times people want to do something, they don't know what to do with it. They've had it either in their family for a while, or they bought it, they were going to build it, they just never got around to it. They got divorced, something happened. And I've had pretty good success with contacting landowners and purchasing it. The 15 acres I compiled up in the Tortolitas were Sonora Ranches right next to that. That was all just basically driving around, finding stuff I liked, pulling up parcel numbers and contacting the owner. Anybody else? Who else does? Do you do investments, Jan?
Not at this point. We've been kicking it around. We've got too many other things going on personally right now to even send our brain in that direction. So
Yeah.
too much family stuff right now. I'm going to jump off. I've got a couple more things I need to prepare for 2 o'clock. Thanks for your time. Everybody have a great week. Happy 4th of July.
Yeah, you too.
Have
Thanks.
your weekend.
You too. Bye-bye.
Yeah, I'm going to step out too. I think we've pretty much hit the wall here.
I think so too. Well, does anybody else have anything else they want to go over, or do you want to go ahead and call it a day? Any ideas for a topic for next week? No? Do you guys find this valuable, or would you rather see it in a different format?
No, I think it's really valuable.
I think it's very valuable as well.
Yeah, I think
Especially for me, like even once I go back to work, like even if I have to go into my actual job, I can still listen to this. So it's been really helpful.
Okay.
Yeah, no, I think you're fine. I mean, I'm surprised at the participation level, but maybe the holidays
Yeah.
got with it.
And some days, like last week, we had what, 25 or so, and then
I think some people have kind of checked out for the weekend too, though. So
well, again, I think it depends on topics. We need to have something of interest, at least to start the meeting, and then we can go to this kind of format and then end it when we need to. But
Something will pop up between now and next week.
yeah, I'm sure it will.
And then you can update, as hey, for tomorrow's thing, or want a quick email or one of those in the notice, add some information in there or something like that as to what the topic is.
Yeah, exactly.
with the COVID stuff closing again, have we heard, is TAR gonna make us stop doing them at all, or are we still good to do open houses?
Well, that's up to me, not TAR. And at this point, I'm going to still allow you to do it, but I want you to take proper precautions.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. We are going to
but
go
they
to
took the open houses off originally, didn't they? Of the
They
MLS.
did, but they added it back. I mean, they were always.
Yeah, I didn't know if they were going to take it back down. I meant.
It depends if we can continue to see the increase in infection rate in Tucson because people aren't complying. Absolutely, they're going to do it again. We've got to be safe. Take safety over numbers any day.
Nothing as of yet.
Nobody likes to be the heavy and tell you guys you can't do something. Unfortunately, it becomes my job to do that. One of the things we're going to do, we've already instituted the masks in all the office. We're also going to start having everybody check in at the front desks and actually mark yes or no that they don't have any COVID symptoms. People are still pushing back on that. And I think more at KOP than here at JV right now. I don't know.
How is the other agent?
I'm sorry, what?
How is the other agent from JV office?
We have almost as far as compliance.
No, the agent that came down with
Agent, I'm
COVID.
sorry, I couldn't hear what you said. She's home. She's home now.
Oh, good.
Yeah. And her name was actually disclosed on Facebook by her.
I saw that the other day.
Yeah. So I'm off the hook. I can say it's a she now. Yeah, she's doing great. She's still having a little bit of difficulty breathing and she's really tired, but she made it, We got lucky. We got really lucky that she didn't come in the office for about 14 days before she became symptomatic. Otherwise, it could have been a completely different scenario. And it's just, you don't know. We could walk outside today and get infected and it's nothing personal. It just happens. And it's scary. I do like what they did in Mexico, Larry. I think that.
Yeah, like I was floored. It was like this is, they got their act together, and it shows in the numbers. Numbers prove it.
Yeah, and unfortunately, I don't want to get political, but from the top down, we're not getting the support to wear masks and things like that. And I think if that happens, we'll start seeing more compliance probably.
Yeah, but unfortunately, we're going to be in a whole lot deeper, bigger hole here pretty soon. Number of people, number of cases, all that stuff. It's this. I mean, I couldn't believe when I turned the TV on a while ago, and there was 50,000 new cases, just today, which topped the April numbers.
Mm-hmm.
Apparently, some people are getting counted twice now too, though. So it's like,
Oh, yeah, and that's, that's probably somebody's excuse or what, now you don't know
no,
what.
like it is like,
Well, and again, numbers are going to increase as we test more and people get sick. I mean, those numbers are going to increase. But what we need to look at is the total, is the curve going up or is it going down? I think that's what we need to look at. But anyway, I'm not going to get into that.
Yeah.
My job is to protect the offices. So that's what I'll do.
Okay.
You guys like it or not? So
No,
anyway.
we have to like it.
Yeah, exactly. Well, thank you all so much for joining today. Sorry it's a small group, but see what happens. Have a happy 4th, safe 4th, and see you next week.
Yeah.
Good.
Happy 4th, everybody.
Thank
Be
you,
careful.
Lisa. Thank you,
Have a good
everyone.
weekend.
Bye.
Bye.